what is the sacred language attempting to participate in? If liturgy is supposed to participate in the divine, it's supposed to participate in a cultus, to be a culture, why a sacred language? Well, there are particular aspects of a sacred language that one participates in, which is not true of the vernacular. So a sacred language is participation in, first, mystery. This is something that you do not get with the vernacular. When you have a sacred language, by definition, a sacred language is separate. That's what the term sacred or holy means. It means something that's separate, something that's set apart for a special thing. And the immediate thing that it communicates that you participate in is mystery. So if you're just speaking a vernacular language, there's no mystery with that. It's not mysterious whatsoever because you know exactly what's being said. You don't need any special training to understand the language. You just know it. That's what a vernacular language is. But a sacred language is mysterious. So you cannot participate in something mysterious by means of vernacular language. You need a sacred language for that. The next thing is you participate in transcendence. So when you encounter a sacred language, it is something that transcends you. Something that is beyond your normal day-to-day life, your normal day-to-day existence. It's transcendent. It transcends you. So it is a mystery, and you participate in something that transcends you, even according to the natural law. So even if you have a false religion that has a false cultus that does not actually participate in the divine, you still are encountering something mysterious. Just on the natural level, you're still encountering something mysterious and something transcendent. Now, in the true cultus, obviously the true religion, the Roman Catholic Church, in all the different apostolic rites of the church, there are really a few dozen apostolic rites of the church, not just the Roman Rite, the Latin Mass, but there's also the Greek Rite, which is the most prevalent, but we also have the Coptic Rite, the Ethiopic Rite, the Slavic Rite, the Greek Rite, which is in Slavonic. That's also a sacred language. All of these different rites have sacred languages. Now, they are more or less understood by the people. Some are more understood, some are less understood. But they are all sacred. So there is a mystery, there's a transcendence there, which leads to reverence. You are participating by using a sacred language. You are participating in reverence. This is very, very critical. This is the experience that many people have with the Latin Mass that they have never experienced at the new Mass. At their average new Mass, even if it's celebrated pretty well, they've just never. This is something that Shia LaBeouf, when he was speaking to Bishop Barron, he expressed this to Bishop Barron. He said that Bishop Barron said something like, "Why do you like the Latin Mass?" And Shia LaBeouf said, "It's because they're not trying to sell me a car." And I think that what he was trying to get at is that he had an experience of reverence. And this is something that a sacred language, you participate in this thing. You participate in this reverence by means of a sacred language. So a sacred language allows you to participate in reverence in a way that the vernacular language does not. Now, obviously, you can still have a reverent vernacular Mass. That's true. However, the sacred language it gives you a participation in a reverence which is of a different species than the vernacular, because it is something that is not readily intelligible, or at least it requires greater training for you to understand. So, what else? Sacred language is participation in mystery, transcendence, reverence, antiquity. Again, just according to the natural law, even in false religions are participating in antiquity. They're participating in something that goes beyond them, that transcends their current time. It goes back centuries and centuries and centuries, something that was passed down from ancient times to today. Antiquity. This is not something that you get with vernacular language. It's not antique. It's not something that's very ancient. Even some of the sacred languages that can be more understood by some people, like for example, like sacred Greek, for example, like ancient Greek, liturgical Greek, I would presume that's more understood by Greeks, because there's such a thing as modern Greek versus ancient Greek. However, it is still sacred. There's an antiquity to it. So you're participating in antiquity. Now, one could say, for example, this is true to a degree when we talk about Elizabethan English. So if you go to an ordinariate mass, for example, you would have Elizabethan English, these and thous. You'd have that sort of thing, as opposed to you. In the Novus Ordo Third English Edition Roman Missal, you still have non-Elizabethan English. So it's purely vernacular English. But with the sacred language, you're participating in antiquity. It's difficult to participate in antiquity, difficult or impossible to participate in antiquity with a non-sacred language, especially a modern language, because you can put a timestamp on these languages. The alphabets were created at a certain time. Next thing is ancestors. You're participating by using a sacred language. You're participating with the ancestors. Now, again, in a false religion, you're not actually participating in ancestors, but in the true religion, in the true Latin Mass, we are participating with the ancestors. But even by natural law, even a false religion is still participating in the ancestors, in the sense that the ancestors use the same sacred language. So there's a certain bond that's created just on the natural level with all the ancestors that came before you. And this is something that you do not get with vernacular Mass. The next thing is universality. Number 6, universality. So this is geographical and generational. So all of the people who are participating in that sacred language of the people in their whole geographic location, it's universal. Now, this is particularly acute. You can see this in particular, again, those two other examples I mentioned, in Judaism and in Mohammedanism. You have this sacred language you can see across the whole world, and it's generational. So you have a child participating with an adult in the same sacred language. Sacred language transcends generations. It transcends geography, transcends generations. And 7, the last one is a clerical priesthood. So a sacred language also enables and reinforces a particular clerical caste, a clerical caste of priests or sacred persons who use this language. So you do not have the same participation in the clerical priesthood when you have a vernacular Mass. It's not the same. It doesn't reinforce that veil over the mystery. And this is something that reinforces all the previous things. When you have a clerical priesthood, which uses a sacred language, it reinforces all the prior things. Mystery, transcendence, reverence, etc.